where it's just another day.
Question: what's one of the most unnatural things in the Natural History Museum? Answer: the dinosaur. It's made of plaster. Today, however, like every other day, the dino will be a star attraction, especially as its big rival is stranded. The blue whale is undergoing cosmetic surgery from builders and decorators who normally do facelifts at places like 10 Downing Street. Do you like whales?
Well, not really. I've seen them in the flesh because I've been to the South Atlantic, but otherwise I'm not really into them. It's just an unusual job. The eventual hole is being turned into a mammal hole, not just a whale hole. And the elephants are on the way around a rhinoceros.
The Hall of Human Biology, an educational amusement arcade run by Sean Whitaker Cook. As a lad, he fell in love with the place. Now that he works here, boyhood can last forever.
Birds, crocodiles, lizards and snakes, turtles and tortoises, and mammals.
Well, I thought it was just beyond any hope of mine to end up working here. I was instantly riveted and hypnotised, and loved it ever since. Particularly the last few years since it's been cleaned and got popular the way it should be. It's a 100-year-old institution. It'll be here for another 100 years. The staff, I think, are not much more than passengers. We come to the building, we work here, and move on. The establishment stays, and the work continues.
In front of you are models of 4 ornithischian dinosaurs: Iguanodon, Heterodontosaurus, Scelidosaurus, and Hypsilophodon. In this game, we will refer to them as A, B, C, and D.
What about the scientists?
I don't know many of them very well. I don't understand a fraction of the work they do. We're friendly, I suppose, like North and South Vietnam.
The museum is crawling with scientists, boys in the back rooms doing their own thing for the benefit of mankind. Geologist Alan Woolley studies stones, trying to establish what makes the Earth move, scientifically speaking. Peter Whitehead is a zoologist specializing in fish. Jenny Cox from New Zealand is into mealybugs, nasty little beasts which destroy crops. We don't get many here, apart from the odd stowaway which sneaks in on bunches of bananas. David Ragg identifies species of crickets and grasshoppers by recording their songs, love calls created by rubbing their wings and legs together.
Good morning, gents. If there is any change of brakes, please let me know so that we can keep an eye on you all. Mr. Kariuku, balcony west, botany tea reliefs, third break. Mr. Malloy, insects and well, third break.
One wet Sunday more than 30 years ago, Mary Torr brought her children here for the day. From that moment on, the museum had a dedicated fan. Now she works here as a messenger. It's a labour of love.
I wanted to work here right from when they was babies. First opportunity I had, I came to work here. So I loved it. Don't think you can go anywhere over the world and find a place so lovely, really. Lovely. I never get Monday morning blues because I've got to come back to work. Because I'm glad to be back after a weekend.
You mean you still get moved by it after all these years?
Yeah. I don't know why. Perhaps it's another life. Perhaps I worked in here I was... I don't know. Can't explain it, but I do love it here.
Beiju. Clicker. That is Gallery 8 relief and key relief Beiju.
Yes, but I think you've got to have something to do. Yeah. I don't think you could just sit back and vegetate. I think you need something. You need a hobby. Just a hobby to keep you going.
The plant pressing department, a gentle feminine stronghold.
I'd like to have perhaps a little tea shop or something like that.
Rare and valuable plants and fruits are brought here to be preserved. Pressing is a very delicate operation and accidents can happen.
You know, if you don't pack them right with the paper in one of the drawers, pack it to the heights of the balls or the nuts, put it in the press, and sometimes you hear one almighty crash, and that's one of your nuts gone.
Almost ready for the public to be let in at 9:30. And even though the dino is a fake, its keeper, a Hungarian refugee called Frank, still takes great pride in its appearance. Frank, what's your biggest problem with the dino?
Biggest problem is no problem for us. Nothing at all. No problem.
A lot of dust up there, though.
No, a lot of dust up there, but we have to cope with that.
Here come the crocodiles, the first of the 7,500 visitors who march through every day to browse over more than 50 million items. Do you know how many bits there are in it?
Pardon?
Do you know how many pieces?
How many bits is about? Well, I really didn't count it, but I can tell you that about 600-700 pieces.
You fond of it?
Oh yeah.
Why?
Yeah, because I treat him indeed very well all the time and have to look after. Otherwise, a visitor see it's too dirty or something. They're not interested then, you know, because they see a grey dust on there and just passing, innit? Now, when it's nice and clean, more kids is more like it, very much. Chat there will show you.
Start lowering, Tony, and we'll adjust it as she goes through. Oh, you're all right. Carry on. All right. Go on. Keep going.
The art of Roy Hall, 35 years a taxidermist.
You're putting the head. Right, let him... Right, gently. Mind the ears. Steady. Right. Okay. It's all yours.
Why did you come here?
Well, it's rather like the mecca of all taxidermists. I mean, I think it's every taxidermist wishes to work at the British Natural History Museum, but only a very, very few ever succeed in the years.
Why is it so important?
Well, it's such a vast organisation. You've got so many expertise that can help you on practically every aspect of the job you do. There'll always be taxidermists. I don't think a machine will ever be invented that you can put skins and skulls in one end and turn the handle and rather like string sausages out come model animals. There's always going to be this need for people doing taxidermy by hand. It's a hand job.
You use your words very carefully. You talk about setting up an animal.
Yeah, setting up. Well, I think the old Victorian idea was to stuff animals. I think people's idea of that was to take the skin of an animal, sew up the legs and probably 9/10 of the belly, and leave a hole at the end, and just keep stuffing material in. But this is very wrong. I mean, taxidermy is really a scientific art, rather like you would go to a tailor having a suit made. You wouldn't go in the door and expect the tailor to give you the ones up and down and then say, well, come back next week, I'll have a suit ready for you. And when you come back, it should fit you like a glove. Same thing with taxidermy. You've got to be very, very careful that you get the precise measurements, you get the feel of the animal, you've got to get the right look about the animal. Otherwise, you've got a complete failure.
I suppose you know all the old taxidermist jokes.
I've heard them all, yes, and I think I should have to make up one myself for posterity, but I've heard most of them over the last 35 years.
Is there one that makes you laugh?
Yeah, I think the one of the old lady who took the two monkeys into the taxiderm and said, I'd like them mounted, please. Can you mount these monkeys? And the taxidermist said, well, excuse me, no, that's wrong. No, the taxidermist said to the old lady, would you like the monkeys mounted? And she said, no, just holding hands, please.
She's getting old now. She does. See the bamboo shoots on the trees up there?
Where's her friend, look?
It's Annan.
Annan. Yeah?
She's running around. I think you're playing hide and seek, dear. What do you think they're playing?
It is a paradox. There's over 300 scientists, I'm told. But the 2.5 million visitors a year, they don't know or don't care what goes on behind mahogany doors.
Outside that window, the world is rushing by on its way to Knightsbridge, and here you sit, looking down that thing at these.
Oh, to me, I think probably the mealybugs are just as fascinating as anything that's happening out there. I came here from New Zealand because the museum here is considered one of the best of its kind in the world. And I actually came here specifically to be able to work here. So I spend most of my time looking at different species of mealybugs and trying to work out how to tell them apart. Alone? Here? Well, yes.
Front of house, others are working to help raise the £3 million it costs every year to run the museum. The shop is managed by Sally Lassen.
Should we reduce those, do you think?
No, they're sitting
Are they? No one can see the same number on them.
Oh, no, we're taking...
Do you regard your job as very important in this extremely impressive place?
It is impressive, isn't it? When I first came in here, I don't think it was considered at all important by me or anybody else, and probably wasn't. Since then, the figures and the sums and the numbers have got so large that I feel that it is important, and the amount of money that's generated is important.
I don't know what pattern. The horse one.
What do you think of scientists?
They vary enormously. They can be the most pompous people you've ever met, and it can be very much a question of me, big, important scientific gentleman, you asking me, little shopkeeper. And I can see their point of view in a way, because it is really a scientific institution. The vast amount of work goes on here, generating all sorts of other projects all over the world.
These are sprats. These are New Zealand sprats. Do you like sprats? To eat?
I don't know, that smells a bit...
Well, they've been in alcohol for 2 years, so they're not awfully nice. New Zealanders used to think they had only one sort of sprat. You never got one in England only. And I looked at these and discovered that on the tongues are little patches of teeth. And looking very carefully, I found that some of them had oval patches and some had long, narrow ones. So I wondered, do we have two sorts of sprat in New Zealand? So I went out there and, armed with this sort of clue, looked at the fresh ones, and I found to my surprise that some had greenbacks and some had bluebacks. Definitely we had two species of sprat. So what? What does it mean?
That's what I was going to ask.
If there are two species of sprat in New Zealand, fishery officers have got to be aware of this. You know, for example, if we didn't know the difference between a rhinoceros and a hippopotamus, all the information known about them would be lumped together. Now, once we discover, you discover, or I discover, there are two different animals, then we've got to separate all that information out. So I've written to the New Zealanders and I've explained you've got two species of sprat. Now you've got to start again with all your fishery records. Poor people.
Do you eat fish?
Yes, and I feel sometimes a sense of being a little bit of a cannibal when I come onto my beloved herrings and sprats and anchovies. But on the other hand, it's always interesting. You cut them with a knife. My wife objects strongly to this. And you dissect them a bit and you become more interested in the fish than in actually eating it.
Do you mean when your wife has cooked you something, you actually start giving her the lowdown on...
Oh, I don't say anything, but I can't help getting a little bit interested in that bone there, this little muscle here.
Just eat it, eat it. Get yourself an egg and beat it. Have some more chicken, have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried. Just eat it, just eat it, just eat it, just eat it. Oh!
And Elliot, you remember the World Wildlife Conservation Group, aren't you? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Tours like to Africa and India.
Time over. Time finished.
Are we going?
Yes. Next one.
Eat it. Don't you make me repeat it. Have a banana. Have a whole bunch.
Thank you very much.
It doesn't matter what you have for lunch.
Now, you look on here. There's got a menu. Rather, someone humorous here has got a menu. Now, what are the sort of things that dinosaurs could have eaten? Can you tell me?
Eat it, eat it, eat it, eat it.
The museum's equivalent of a pickling factory. Other government departments bring strange fish here to be identified. Then they bottle and label them. Well, some of them. There are stories about the ones that got away.
There was one occasion when a chappie from the customs brought in a bonito. And it was
what?
A bonito. It's a bit like a small tuna or a big mackerel. And it was a bit large. He didn't particularly want to cart it back on the bus or whatever he'd got, so he left it. And we looked at each other and thought, well, do you like bonito? I like bonito. Chop, 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 chop. So that's what happened to the bonito.
Do you think that carnivore teach the rich? No. I think they are. I think they are.
What does rich mean?
Rich means it's got lots of sort of little bumps in it. Like a serrated edge of a knife. Sharp! Sharp teeth. Now, why would he have sharp teeth? What kind of food did he eat?
Meat.
So he was a flesh eater, that's right, meat eater. So you want to draw sharp teeth on the Tyrannosaurus rex here. Alright? You want to draw sharp teeth on the Tyrannosaurus rex. That's right. Well, he eats other dinosaurs. Don't bang it. It's naughty. Naughty. Come on.
Do you understand all these technical terms that float around here?
Well, I've picked up a smattering of knowledge, mainly because when I first came here, I felt such an idiot with children coming up and asking me questions. If I didn't know the answer, I thought, it's about time we did some reading. So I've done a little bit of background research on it. But I wouldn't say that I was, that well up.
You can pronounce all these departments, can you?
Oh, yeah, no problem. Paleontology, things like that. And, well, you name it, I'll have a go at it.
I can't name it.
You can't name it? Oh, you haven't been here 21 years.
What about the people who come here?
On the whole, they're a good crowd, nice, well-behaved crowd. Get the odd juvenile delinquent, but we can cope with those after a few years' experience.
Sometimes, if you're on your own and you cannot handle the situation, you call help. You have what you call a whistle here in your pocket, which you can take out and blow. And you would get other members of staff which would come to your assistance and try and get the troublemakers out of the museum. The Hall of the Human Biology is one of the places I like to be in because it's a very interesting gallery. I think the most interesting one in the whole of the museum as far as I'm concerned. And people come in here, they take a look at things like that, particular young couple that whisper things to each other and they whisper back and they have a laugh secretly.
He's very tactful, haven't they, with him?
Yes, he's not very well endowed at all, is he? He looks like Noel Edmonds, doesn't he?
Where does he know his mummy? Over there?
Standby studio. Dr. David Ragg is all set up, ready for his latest recording session. Technically, everything is fine. Trouble is, the stars are being a bit temperamental.
We have some crickets in the studio through there, and if the crickets were singing, we'd now be hearing them from the monitor speaker there. But, as you can hear, or as you can't hear, they're not, in fact, singing.
What is Mummy wearing?
Red jacket.
Red jacket? Who did? This is what the teachers do, so you'll be able to learn exactly what the teachers do themselves. Now, you read what it says. This is the information that your teacher gets. You don't get that information, so we're cheating, aren't we? Eh? Where did you get lost?
We went to buy these information strips, and to my auntie, this is my auntie's her mum, and she said she would wait for us down here. We looked all around and we haven't found her.
Will you get told off?
We don't know.
Can you see her anywhere? Have you had a good look?
Yes.
Well, I'm sure she'll find you, won't she? Yeah, Sarah? She'll find you, won't she? This happened a lot.
Yes, quite a lot.
Does it?
We've had about a dozen today so far. Some will get a bit tearful, but...
Got any special tricks of coping with it?
Well, we try to coax them to show us how good they can write their name, you know. And that way we get their name out of them. And they seem to tend to get a bit friendly quite easily.
Dumb creatures like crickets are more of a problem, and the sound of silence is almost deafening. But in another part of the museum, other crickets are singing their hearts out, blissfully unaware of the fate that's about to befall them. They're fodder for spiders, those much maligned creatures adored by zoologist Paul Hilliard.
Spiders have had a bad press, I think. A lot of people think that they are horrible. But I think you have to remember that no one has ever been eaten by a spider. No person has ever been eaten by a spider. I mean, in this country, house spiders are much feared. But I think that possibly if when you see a spider, you don't just shout, "Oh, a spider, get it out."
You do?
Well, I think if instead you shouted, "Tegenaria domestica, get it out," it would be half the battle. And then by that way, we wouldn't have this rather irrational fear of spiders. Now here, Geraldine is resting. She's got a very nice nature, Geraldine. But we have another spider that's rather more, well, I don't handle it at all. We call this the beast. Let's give her a cricket.
Does she come out?
No, she can't jump out or climb out, we're glad to say. She's incredibly quick. I do not meddle with the beast.
I mean... But that didn't stand a lot of chance, did it?
No. You'll hear a crunching noise now as the cricket is manipulated by those fangs. I don't want to sound ghoulish, but that's what it's like with spiders.
Is it just the one in there at the moment?
No, there's a male and a female, so the silence could be mating.
Ah.
Das wird dann an dir ganz dick, wenn es zieht.
More lost boys. But at least Sarah's mother has turned up to claim her and her cousin. You scared? Are you scared? No. Away from all the human drama behind mahogany doors, the scientists are still submerged in their own little worlds. Sometimes they get away from it all. They go on expeditions. There's one about to set off to Malaysia with some frightfully wet equipment.
My most important device is the umbrella, which I use upside down, and then, well, I'm standing under a bush, something like that, and I've got a fairly long stick in this hand here, so I'm thrashing the vegetation, and then everything rains down. Quickly, though, when I spot the spiders running up the sides, I get my pooter, and that's just this flexible tube with a glass tube on the end, and I quickly suck them into that. And then, having got your spider, that you then put him into alcohol, a tube of alcohol to preserve him.
So you kill them?
Not always, no. Sometimes...
if you put it in the tube of alcohol, it's going to be dead, isn't it?
That is true, yes. But then he comes back here to the National Collection and is preserved for life.
Going home time, and wouldn't you know it, suddenly in the recording studio, something stirs. Are you fond of crickets?
I certainly enjoy working on them, yes. Yes, I regard them as among the more attractive insects.
Once you've recorded them, what happens to them? Do you set them free?
No, it's important each time we've recorded them that we kill the specimen and add it to our collection. Which may sound a bit gruesome, but you've got to remember that all these things die off at the end of the summer every year.
Stop now. Knows you're talking about him.
That's right.
Thinks you might be going to kill him. Kindly.
We think really it's rather a privilege for them to be preserved for posterity in the museum rather than die a lingering death and rot away in the fields.
Yeah, I do the behind the ears, yes.
What do you think about the fact that everything here is dead?
It isn't dead to me. It doesn't seem dead to me.
No?
No. No, it's just alive. To me, it's alive.
Kill these lights over here, ain't it? Good idea.